Hi.
Hi.
My name is Carrie, and what a twist of fate it is for me to be up here today. It's a real big twist of fate. I have 10 minutes to tell my whole life story. So the first thing I really would like to say is that the family members are not throwaway clients. They're not throwaway patients. They're not throwaway people. They're just as sick, if not sicker, than the person afflicted with addiction. I did have the honor of meeting Father Swicegood, which is amazing. I went there because, somebody gave me a book, and I was very indoctrinated to check it out. Am I allowed to read this? So I went to Father Swicegood and I said, "Is it okay if I read this book?" He goes, "Yeah, that's a good book." And he goes, "What else is going on?" Because who goes all the way in there to talk about a book, right? And my marriage was failing at the time. I was in recovery and my husband was not ready to be in recovery. And he talked me through all that. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I was asked to speak here because I am the daughter of, I am the sister of, there's my brother over there. I have two brothers in recovery, I have a sister in recovery, I have a son in recovery, I have a former husband in recovery, and I'm in recovery myself. So, that makes me like a Triple Crown winner. So being raised in an alcoholic home that was full of love and a lot of drinking was insane. They're great people, they were sick people, I've forgiven them, we've moved on. But I learned that there was something really screwed up with my thinking, being raised in that traumatic environment, and I saw things differently than other people. One of the early messages I got was, I have to control things, So we know that the addicts are addicted to drugs and alcohol, and children of alcoholics are addicted to control, And so I became very controlling. And it saved my life. Those were things that I outgrew, kind of. And every qualifier brought me to the next level of my development, Every qualifier, person that affected my life, brought me to some piece of recovery. And I do not regret the past, which is amazing. So, so my first qualifier was my dad, and that brought me to adult children of alcoholics. Mm-hmm. And I went in there and I took, little tidbits from that program, I learned that their alcoholism wasn't my fault, which I already knew. And they just showed me that, they gave me the first stepping stone into my life of recovery. From there, every good thing in my life came from the rooms of the 12-step rooms. So after going to ACOA, I was like, all right, but there's something else. I have a sister who got sober before me, my little sister, and I was with her the night before she tried to take her own life. I have permission to say this. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't see any signs. The next day, I found out she was in a psych ward. I was like, how did I miss this, And so I went to her counselor to find out, how can I help this girl? And she started talking about me. I'm like, I'm not here for me. I'm here to help my sister. And honestly, she said to me, this is a joke, but she said that she met a woman who, before her recovery, she was beautiful, she was young, she was vibrant, and she saw her 10 years later, and she didn't recognize her because, alcohol had just so affected her appearances. I was like, drinking affects the way you look? I better stop drinking, Because that's all I thought I was, was whatever, smoke and mirrors. So anyway, I found out that I couldn't help her, but I could help myself. And that's when I went into Al-Anon. I went into Codependence Anonymous. I found out all these different things, that I was kind of letting my life go by, trying to save theirs, which I couldn't do, And that was a really important message. It took me a long time to see, that every moment that I was looking, checking, striving to fix, there was my life going by, My younger brother had a lot of, Crash Kelly, I guess we could call him. And his story really brought us all to our knees. Really brought us all to our knees. My sister got sober. I went to my first meeting with her. And, so I tried to get Danny a bed, and there were no beds anywhere. So I had to kind of keep him safe in my house. And when I got a bed, he ran away. And I was so mad, I was like, do you know what that took? And one day I woke up and I looked out, the bathroom window, and I seen him floating in my pool in his underwear, I'm like, Danny? Like, what are you doing there? He was ready to surrender. And he was the next person in my life to get into recovery and bring me to the next level of my development, which was, I didn't cause it, I can't control it, there's my people in the back there, and I can't cure it, right? And I learned that in the rooms of, every room, I learned that in every room. So that was great. So Danny's in long-term recovery, Patty's in long-term recovery, everybody is. And we're thick as thieves, when you're raised in an alcoholic home, they liken it to being raised in a war zone, So picture what a war zone is like. You never know what's gonna happen next. The bombs are falling, duck and cover. You get intuitive, and that's what happened to us. We became hyper-intuitive. We began to know what you're thinking and feel your feelings. I think some of the hardest things I had to do is counterintuitive. I went and I heard that what tough love was, detach with love. I didn't know how to do that, I dragged them by their ears in there, I bullied them into it. Alcoholism took my marriage from me. I loved my husband very, very dearly. I got sober, and he was not ready to get sober. And I had a decision to make. When I spoke to Father Swicegood, I said, what should I do? I'm a Catholic, we don't get divorced. And he said to me, a mother lion must protect her cubs. That's all he said. And then the message came that I knew what happened being raised in an alcoholic home, but I didn't know what would happen being raised in a divorced home. So I left the man that I loved, who, by the way, got sober when I left. Funny coincidence. I guess I was in his way. He is sober a long time now. We are on talking terms. We co-parented and whatever. So, no, it's cold. It really is cold. It really is. I didn't get permission from him to talk about it. So the next thing that happened along my family journey was my son Daniel. This is the heartbreaker, right? So my son Daniel, one day I'm sleeping and he's not home yet. And that sound of somebody trying to find the lock, the key, You can hear it going. So I go, what the heck is that? So I wake up and my son walks in the front door and he falls, face plants right down. And I was stunned. By now I'm a counselor, I'm a woman in long-term recovery. I know all the tricks from every angle. And I didn't know that my son was an alcoholic. I mean, he's, like we said, he's only smoking a little weed. He's only blah, blah, blah. The cops are calling and saying, we found a pipe, and all this stuff. And I was stunned. And that brought me to the rooms of Families Anonymous. And that's where I learned mostly what I know to help other family members. So the second hardest thing from leaving my husband was asking my son to leave the house. He was 17, he was full-blown, he was gonna graduate high school, and he had a swagger in him that was like, what are you gonna do to me now? I'm 18, and I prayed to God, and I said, you have to help me, because I tried everything that I tell everybody else to try, right? And I heard loud and clear, and I know that sounds kind of nutty, that you'll always be his mother, but you're no longer his parent. You have no control over what he does. You gave him everything. So I'm like, what does that mean, God? And so I gave Daniel one more warning, and I said, if you come in late one more time, I'm gonna ask you to leave the house. Of course, he had to try that out, right? And he came in late, and that was the day I asked my son to leave my house. And it was so hard and so difficult because when he did leave, of course, all the things we fear, he got a DWI. So I left him in jail for 5 days. People were looking at me like, are you kidding me? You are the meanest mother on earth. And all I could say is the program got, people in the program, I have to listen to program, I left him in there for 5 days. That kid dropped to his knees and gasped air like it was, thank God. But that wasn't the end of his story. He got arrested again. My baby, he's only this big. So, long story short, he's in recovery today. He's the GSR for his group. He lives in Buffalo. He owns his own home. I don't. And he's amazing. He's an amazing kid. So, to go full circle, I went to Kenneth Peters Center because I wanted to be a good mother, and I didn't think that I was. My children saw me hungover, but they never saw me drunk. That's a victory. So, and I'm grateful for that. I've been in recovery for 31 years. But I had the honor of meeting Ken Peters, and of course Pete Duffy, my favorite person on the planet. And when I went in there, I met Pete, and I said, oh, please don't let this guy be my counselor, please. And God has a way of, everything, whatever, you know what I mean. And he became my counselor, and he changed my life. But I got to meet Ken Peters. He just took one look at me, and he said, what brought you here? And I'm like, I want to stop drinking, and I want to be a good mom. Let her in. And he scholarshiped me through that program, because my husband at that time did not want me to get sober. I was his party buddy. He was going to miss his best friend, and everything was going to change, and it did. I never meant to become a counselor at KSAC. I was going to open up a recovery coffee shop and bookstore, and I thought maybe if I knew more about it on that end, maybe that would happen. And then the next thing I know, I'm graduating from KSAC school, and I'm a family counselor at KPC, which is a step. I fell in love with other family members, people who came to me and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, they're so sick, they're so, blah, blah, blah. And I don't see sick people, I see freaking warriors that have been in the trenches, putting their lives on hold and helping every one of us in some way, shape, or form keep it all together. And then when the recovering person gets well, the families fall apart. They fall apart because it's safe to, and they can feel the feelings that they've had to put on hold for the longest time, So anyway, we have a great family program there. I have people. I'm only mentioning one name, and please forgive me. I have 1,000 people to thank, but I have my friend Eileen, who helped me start Families Anonymous at KPC. One of the only original members in that group, and the girls have taken, as soon as I hear that my peeps have made it there, I know they're safe. Because every single good thing I learned in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, Codependents Anonymous, where else do I go? All of them. Families Anonymous. All right, Steve's giving me the inch up that it's time to go. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Wow, two really powerful speakers. Thank you, Kerry, for all of that.